Hello friends, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Dr. Sandeep Walia, Head of the Department, University Institute of Tourism and Hospitality Management, Chandigarh University. Today, we are going to discuss the module Different Styles of Architecture in India, Hindu, Buddhist and Islamic. Under the paper, Tourism Products of India. After completing this module, the students will be able to understand the concept of architecture through different styles. They will also be able to learn the different styles of Hindu, Buddhist and Islamic architecture. The students will also be able to know the difference between the three kinds of architecture. They will also be able to learn about the places where these kinds of architectural monuments are found. The students will also be able to establish the structural difference of these architectures. Dear students, the best achievements of Indian civilizations are its architecture. Different types of Indian architectural styles have been influenced by the unique history of India. Indian architecture has evolved through centuries as a result of socio-economic and geographical conditions. As a result of vast diversities, a vast range of architectural styles have evolved, having a certain amount of continuity across history. Indian architecture belongs to different periods of history, like the cities of Indus Valley civilization provide evidence of extensive town planning. The beginnings of Indian architecture can be traced back to the introduction of Buddhism in India. A large number of magnificent buildings come up in this period. Some of the highlights of Buddhism architecture are the great stupa at Sanchi and the rock-cut caves at Ajanta. The South Indian school of architecture began to flourish with the advent of Hindu kingdoms in South India. The notable works of the Pallava rulers were the rock-cut temples of Mahabalipuram and the temples of Kanchipuram. The temples at Tanjavur, Belur and Helebid bear evidence to the architectural excellence of the South Indian rulers. The Chola, Hoysala and the Vijayanagar rulers also did magnificent job in the art and architecture. A new style of architecture developed in North India. This was called the Nagra style of architecture. In Central India, the Chandela rulers built a striking temple complex at Khajuraho. The Muslim rulers developed a new architectural style in India, the Indo-Islamic architecture. The Indo-Islamic style was neither strictly Islamic nor strictly Hindu. The architecture of the medieval period can be divided into two main categories. They are the Delhi or the imperial style and the Mughal architecture. Let us discuss about the Hindu architecture first. Hindu architecture originated over the time from basic rock-cut cave shrines to huge temples which extended across the Indian subcontinent, forming a colonial style which is still adhered to the today in Hindu temples. The vital elements of these styles are accurate geometry when viewed from all four sides and above, the square form and grid ground plans, soaring towers and elaborate decorated sculpture which includes worshippers, gods, animals, erotic scenes and floral and geometric patterns. Let us discuss about beginnings and purpose. From the 1st century CE, a new type of worship called Bhakti or devotional Hinduism increased across the Indian subcontinent, and the old Vedic gods were replaced by deities like Shiva, Vishnu, Krishna, Brahma and Devi. These gods become the central figures of Hinduism, and their adoration requires temples where the devoted could offer their thanks and make known their hopes for a good life. Buildings were built to home sacred symbols of different gods and to decorate the sculpture figures of them to recall stories of their mythological adventures, and the space for worshippers to leave offerings and perform rituals such as bathing and dancing by professional female dancers. The temple was measured as a place of abode of the particular god. It was therefore a holy place where heaven and earth meet, and as a god's home, it must be a splendid place. The need of the god would be fulfilled by the devoted bodies of priests who attended the temple. Hindus need not attend regular services, but a walk around the temple interior known as Prakada Nishad, turn in the clockwise direction, was considered beneficial. Further, They could say prayers, look at the gods' demonstration, a specific act of goodness known as darshan, and leave offerings of food and flowers. Temples became the center of a community, and their maintenance was guaranteed by the land grants and endowments from the ruling class, as instructed by inscriptions on many temples' early influences. The first Hindu temples were influenced by early Buddhist structures such as the stupa built from rock-cut caves. Then the arrival of Gupta architecture in the 4th century CE. The first freestanding Hindu temples were built with elements such as towers and projecting niche. The first equipments used were wood and terracotta, but architects then switched to brick and stone like sandstone, granite, schist, and marble. No mortar were used in the older temples, and so accurate cutting of stone was essential. Some of the cave temples are those at Udaygiri in Malwa and date to the 5th century CE. Early freestanding temples survive at Deoghar and include the 6th century Devastra temple dedicated to Vishnu. Early temples only had a garbhagriha, but by the time additions were built and copied across temple sites to create, by the 10th century, a colonial architectural style. The most obvious of these features were a portico entrance and the pillared hall, which led to the garbhagriha, features which developed in the Deccan from the 8th century. Even more impressive, above and garbhagriha, a huge corbel tower was constructed, the shikhara. One of the earliest examples incorporating these features can be found in the Aihole and 8th century Durga temple, which lists one of the most ornate in the 21st century Nataraja temple at Chidambaram in the Tamil Nadu. The next is the Nagara temples. The Nagara style is typically characterized by the architectural excellence, which ideally portrayed the craftsmanship of the artists. The temples of northern India have two diverse features, in planning and in the elevation. In plan, the temples are basically quadrangle with projections in the center. In elevation, it's like a tower gradually inclining inwards in a convex curve. The temples of the Nagara style can be classified according to diverse regions such as Orissa, Central India, Rajputana, Gujarat and Kathiawar, etc. The Mukuteshwara temple is considered the gem of Orisian architecture. A low enclosure wall in feint with sculptured niche surrounds it. The entrance of the temple is through an elaborately ornamented Takaratrana, which gives a unique and fitting start to the exquisitely ornate and well-proportioned monument. The Rajrani temple was built in early 11th century, representing a unique research in Orissa. Its shikhara is clustered by turrets including leaning spires and corner spires, which are crowned by double amalkas like the Khajuraho temple of central India. The Lingaraja temple of the 11th century is the grandest temple, indicating the culmination of the architectural activity by Bhubaneswar. This temple has a sanctum, a closed hall, a dancing hall and a hall of offerings. The Sun temple at Konark, which is an important place even in its ruined state, this is the grandest achievement of the artistic and architectural genius of Orissa. The classical temple initially consisted of sanctum with a floaty curvilinear shikhara, a jagmohana and a detached elaborately carved square platform. In central India, the Kandaria Mahadev is the biggest and the loftiest temple of Khajuraho. It is very striking and mature in plan. Its design dimensions and its superb sculptural establishments and architectural elaboration is really charming. It is the most evolved and completed achievement of Central Indian building style and one of the most inspiring creations of temple's architecture. It is ornamented with graded and mounting series of smaller replicas of it. Let us discuss about Dravidian style temples. It is a typical South Indian style temple usually made from stone. The temple shape may be rectangular, square, star-shaped or octagonal. These temples have gopurams, which are large towers over the entrances, a viyamana, which is the tower over the sanctum, and large pillared halls and corridors. The gopurams in the past were the tallest structures in town. The most holy place is the pitha or pedestal of deity. The pitha is the sanctorum called the garbhagriha. There is usually a Krishna path that enables pilgrims to go around the deities. This is where the altar of the main deity of the temple is located. The garbhagriha or inner sanctum of the main shrine is usually semi-dark and has no sculptures except the main deity. This part of the temple must be constructed first, and before construction begins, there has to be a significant ceremony known as impregnating. Let us now discuss about Buddhist architecture. The Buddhist architecture has its origination in the Indian soil, the birthplace of the Buddha's teaching. The Buddhist architecture started with the growth of different symbols, showing aspects of the Buddha's life. Initially, it was in the Indian Emperor Ashoka who established Buddhism as the state religion of his large Magadha Empire. He also spread Buddhism in different places through architectural monuments. Distinctive Buddhist architectural structures and sculptures such as stupas, pagodas, monasteries and caves, which are the testimony of the different eras, indicates the various phases of the Buddhist stages. The next one is the stupas. Stupas are built of stones to honor significant and important places associated to Buddhism or to home important relics of Buddha. Ashok Maurya, the founder of this group of monuments, built 84,000 stupas which have perished. Some significant stupas are the ones built at Amravati, Sanchi, Bharut and Gaya. The earliest and largest of the three stupas found in Sanchi was built by Ashoka, which is the most striking architectural remains of ancient India. Sanchi in Raisan district of Madhya Pradesh is popular for its striking Buddhist monuments and edifices. Inscriptions show that the monuments were maintained by the rich merchants of that region. Situated on a hill, these fine-looking and well-preserved stupas show the different years from the 3rd century to the 12th century. The stupa built by Ashok was spoiled during the breakup of the Maurya Empire. In the 2nd century, during the rule of the Shungas, it was wholly rebuilt. Religious activity led to the upgradation and enlargement of the stupa, and a stone railing was constructed around it. It was also embellished with the building of heavily carved gateways. The great stupa has a big hemispherical dome which is flat at the top and crowned by a triple umbrella or chhatra on the pedestal, surrounded by a square railing of karmika. Buddha's relics were placed in the casket chamber in the center of dome. At the base of the dome is a high circular terrace, probably meant for parikrama, and an encircling balustrade. The first Torna gateway is at the principal entrance on the south. Each gateway has 2 square pillars crowning each pillar. On all the 4 sides are 4 elephants, 4 lions and 4 dwarfs. The 4 dwarfs support a superstructure of 3 architraves or carved panels, one above the other. Between these are intricately carved elephants and riders on horseback. The entire panel of the gateways is covered with sculptures scenes from the life of Buddha, the Jhatka tales of the Buddhist times and rows of the lotus motifs. During the same period, a number of stupas, chaityas, viharas and pillars were constructed in Sanchi, Bodhgaya, Mathura, Kandhara, Amravati and Nagarjunakonda. Though most of these have not remained in their entirety, the ruins are of architectural interest. Let us discuss about viharas. Viharas are monasteries constructed with brick or excavated from rock. They have a hall meant for congregational prayer with a running veranda on 3 sides or an open courtyard surrounded by a row of cells and a pillared veranda in front. These cells served as dwelling places for the monks. The monastic buildings, built of bricks, were self-contained unit and had a chaitya hall attached to a stupa, the chief object of worship. Some of the important Buddhist viharas are those at Ajanta, Ellora, Nasik, Karle, Khaneri, Bagh and Badami. The Hinayana viharas found in these places have many interesting features which differentiate them from the Mahayana. Though plain from the point of view of architecture, they are large halls with shields executive in the walls of 3 sides. The hall on the small cells, each with a door, have stone platforms to serve as beds. The viharas of Ellora, dated 480 to 7th century AD, are of the 1-2 of the 3 stories and are the largest of type. They contain sculpture features and belong to both Hinayana and Mahayana Buddhism. Then there are chaityas. Chaitya grihas are halls of worship built either of brick or executive from rocks. Ruins of a large number of structural Buddhist Chaityagrihas are found in the eastern district of Andhra Pradesh, in valleys near river and lakes. The ruins located in the district of Srikakulam and Sahilhundram of Vishakhapatnam, at Kotturu of West Godavari, at Guntapalli or Krishna at Vijayawada of Guntur, at Nagarjunkonda and Amravati belong to the 3rd century BC, and later the largest brick Chaitya hall was excavated at Guntapalli. The Chaitya has a double-storied frontage and has 3 doorways in the lower part. It has an upper gallery with the usual arch. The walls of the Chaitya hall are decorated with sculptured idols of couples. The pillars separating the central have from the aisles have a plot base, an octagonal shaft and interwalled lotus capital with an abacus. The stupa at the ape's end is the tall and cylindrical with 2 of its side railings around the sternum. The abacus has carved pairs of elephants kneeling down, each with a couple in front, and caparized horses with riders on them. This is the most beautiful of the Chaityas. Then there were caves. Caves or grottos are the oldest form of the Buddhist architecture. The Buddhist caves traces back their beginning around 100 BCE. They are also known as the rock-cut monasteries, which were hewn from the cliffs and rock walls of the valleys. The Indian Buddhist monks carried this art of cave hewing from China, with the earliest cave temples were built in the 4th century in Dunhuang or Tunhuang, which were further decorated with relief carvings, paintings and stone images of the Buddha or the Bodhisattvas. In India, the most significant cave is Ajanta Caves near modern Aurangabad, Maharashtra. Let us discuss about Islamic architecture. The medieval period saw huge progress in the field of architecture. With the arriving of Muslims to India, many new elements come to be known in buildings. The introduction of Muslim style of architecture can be called as the Indo-Islamic architecture or the Indian architecture influenced by Islamic art. The architecture of the medieval period can be divided into 2 main categories. They are the Delhi or the imperial style and the Mughal architecture. The Indo-Islamic style was neither strictly Islamic nor strictly Hindu. The imperial style developed under the patronage of the Sultans of Delhi. Evolution of Islamic architecture. It was around 610 AD that the Prophet Muhammad heard God's message for the first time in Arabia in the city of Mecca. His knowledge spread quickly as Islam grew into a world religion, ruling from Spain to the Central Asia by the 8th century. The first mosque was the Muhammad's house in Medina, to which he moved from Mecca in Arabia. However, since the earliest monumental buildings were built in Damascus, Syria and Jerusalem, they were much influenced by Byzantine architecture that had been flourishing there. Its spirit is that ideal that God is one and every person is equal before God. About the constructing materials, the walls in all buildings were extremely thick and were largely constructed of rural masonry, which were easily available. These walls were then cased over with chunam or limestone, plaster or dressed stone. Polychrome tiles were used to great advantage to finish the walls. An amazing range of stones were utilized for construction, such as quartzites, sandstone, buffs, marbles, etc. From the 17th century onwards, bricks were also used for construction, and in this phase there were more reliance on local materials. Forts. Building monumental forts where embattlement was a regular feature in medieval times, often symbolizing the seat of power of a king. Commanding heights were utilized to great advantage to construct forts. Another feature was concentric circles of outer walls, as in Golconda, that the enemy had to breach these at all stages before getting in. Some of the famous forts of the Fort of Chittor in Rajasthan, Gwalior, Madhya Pradesh, Daulatabad, earlier Devgiri in Maharashtra, and Golconda in Hyderabad. The Chittorgarh fort is the largest fort in Asia and was occupied for the longest length of time as the seat of power. Then there are minars. The most striking minars of medieval times are the Qutub Minar in Delhi and Chand Minar in Daulatabad. The use of the minar was the azan of Tukal player. Its phenomenal height, however, symbolized the might and the power of the ruler. Qutub Minar. It was built in the 13th century, and the Qutub complex in which the minar is present is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The construction of the bottom story of the Minar was started by Qutb-ud-Din Aibak, and his successor Iltutmish completed it by adding 3 more stories. Hence now it has 5 stories and a height of nearly 230 feet, making it the second tallest Minar in India. The first is at Fateh Burj in Punjab, Chand Minar. It was built in the 15th century by Alauddin Bahmani. It is painted in peach now. Although it looked like an Iranian monument, it was the combined handiwork of local architects with those of Delhi and Iran. It is a 210 feet height tapering tower divided into 4 stories. Tombs. Beginning with the introduction of Quranic verses on the walls, the tomb was subsequently placed with paradisiacal elements such as garden or near a water body or both. As in the case of Taj Mahal, they were not only intended to signify peace and happiness in the next world, but also to show the majesty, grandeur and might the person buried there. The next is the Taj Mahal. Taj Mahal was built in Agra by Shah Jahan as a mausoleum, a kind of last tomb for his deceased wife Mumtaz Mahal. The Taj complex is entered through a monumental red sandstone gateway, the opening arch of which beautifully frames the mausoleum. It was commissioned in the year 1632 and is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Taj Mahal was the apogee of the evolutionary architectural process in medieval India. The main body of the building is topped with a drum and a dome and 4 chupalas forming a beautiful skyline. The marbles for the building was quarried from Makrana mines situated in Rajasthan. Towards the west of the white marble faced tomb lies a red sandstone mosque and a similar construction in the east to maintain balance. These are stone carvings in high and low relief on the walls and the delicate carving of marble into jails and graceful volutes, spiral ornament on the pillars, and the creation of arabesque with pitera dura on walls and tombstones and geometric designs with telestration. 4 types of establishments have been used with great effect for the interior and exterior surfaces of the Taj Mahal. The next one is the Gol Gumbad, Karnataka. It is situated in the Bijapur district of Karnataka. Built by the ruler himself, it is a striking edifice in spite of being unfinished. The tomb is a complex building such as a gateway, a nagarkhana, a mosque and a sarai located within a large walled garden. Gumbad is a square building topped with a circular drum over which rests a majestic dome, giving the building its nomenclature. The dome of Gol Gumbad is the largest in the world. It is the mausoleum of Muhammad Adil Shah, the 7th Sultan of the Adil Shahid dynasty of Bijapur. It is built in dark grey, basalt and decorated plaster work. The next is sarais. Sarais were largely built on the basic square or a rectangular plane and was meant to provide permanent accommodation for Indian and foreign travelers, pilgrims, merchants, traders, etc. This led to cross-cultural interaction, influence and synergetic tendencies in the culture mores of the times at level of people. They were public domains which thronged with public of varied cultural backgrounds. Then there are structures for common people. One of the architectural features of medieval India was also a coming together of styles, techniques and decorations in public and private spaces for non-royal sections of the society. This include buildings for domestic usage, temples, mosques and dargahs, commemorative gateways, pavilions in the buildings and gardens, bazaars, etc. The next one is the Jama Masjid. Large mosques spanning huge spaces also dotted the landscapes of the Indian subcontinent in medieval times. At the time of prayers, a khutbah was read out in the name of the ruler and his laws for the realm were also read out. People face the mihrab while offering prayers as it is indicated the direction of the Kaaba in Mecca. Generally, such a mosque was large with an open courtyard surrounded on 3 sides by cloisters and a Qibla wing in the west. Dear students, let us now summarize what we have discussed in this module. The Indian architecture has evidences since from the inception of the earliest human civilizations. The Indian architecture has always fascinated tourists with its glorious past and history. Indian architecture has evolved through centuries as a result of socio-economic and geographical conditions. As a result of vast diversities, a vast range of architectural styles have evolved, having a certain amount of continuity across history. Therefore, the tourist traveling for the purpose of knowing India's history and glorious culture are always fascinated and forced to travel India to relish its cultural as well as architectural heritage. And with these words, I sum up this module. Thank you.